1492 was a year remembered in Europe for discovery and division. While ships sailed westward and kingdoms celebrated expansion, another story unfolded quietly but decisively in the East, one that reshaped the Ottoman Empire through tolerance, foresight, and economic intelligence. In that year, thousands of Jewish families were expelled from Spain, driven out by religious persecution and royal decree. Homeless, dispossessed, and desperate, they searched for refuge across the Mediterranean world. Many doors were closed. One, however, was deliberately opened. Under the rule of Bayezid II, the Ottoman Empire offered sanctuary, not as an act of charity alone, but as a calculated decision that blended humanity with statecraft. Bayezid II understood something many rulers of his time did not. Tolerance could be a source of strength. Welcoming refugees was not a sign of weakness, it was an investment in people who carried skills, knowledge, networks, and experience. By accepting Jewish refugees expelled from Spain, the Ottomans gained merchants fluent in international trade, scholars versed in science and medicine, financiers skilled in credit and accounting, and craftsmen capable of revitalizing urban economies. The decision immediately challenged the norms of the late 15th century. Europe was moving toward religious uniformity enforced by law and violence. Difference was treated as danger. The Ottomans, by contrast, governed a multi-religious empire where Muslims, Christians, and Jews already lived side by side under a structured legal system. Bayezid I's policy did not invent tolerance, but it reinforced it at a critical moment. Ships were dispatched to carry refugees safely to Ottoman lands. Families arrived with little more than their knowledge and traditions. They settled primarily in major urban centers, cities already central to imperial life. Istanbul, newly transformed into the capital of a world empire, absorbed waves of newcomers. Salonika, strategically located and commercially active, soon became one of the most vibrant Jewish centers in the Mediterranean. The economic impact was swift and visible. Jewish merchants brought established trade connections with Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. They understood international markets, currencies, and demand patterns. Ottoman ports benefited from increased activity, while inland cities gained access to broader commercial networks. Tax revenues rose without the need for new conquests or heavier burdens on the population. Craftsmanship flourished as well. Refugees introduced advanced techniques in textiles, metalwork, printing, and medicine. Ottoman cities gained workshops that produced high-quality goods for both domestic use and export. These industries created jobs, increased productivity, and strengthened urban economies already recovering from decades of warfare. Scholarship was another major gain. Jewish physicians, astronomers, linguists, and philosophers entered imperial service or taught privately. Medical knowledge improved, libraries expanded, and intellectual exchange increased. The empire became not just a military power, but a center of learning where ideas crossed religious and cultural boundaries. This policy also carried diplomatic consequences. At a time when European states were fragmenting along religious lines, the Ottoman Empire presented itself as a stable alternative, orderly, pragmatic, and confident in its diversity. This reputation enhanced Ottoman influence beyond its borders. Merchants felt safer operating under Ottoman protection. Minority communities elsewhere looked eastward with hope. Tolerance, however, was not absolute freedom. The Ottoman system placed non-Muslims within a defined legal framework that guaranteed protection in exchange for loyalty and taxation. Bayezid II did not dismantle this structure, he used it effectively. Refugees were integrated without threatening social order, and communal autonomy was balanced with imperial authority. Stability was preserved while diversity expanded. The contrast with Spain was striking. While Spanish rulers expelled productive communities in the name of religious unity, the Ottomans absorbed those same communities and benefited from their talents. According to contemporary observers, Bayezid II reportedly mocked the decision of Spain's rulers, arguing that they had impoverished their own kingdom while enriching his. Whether or not the words were spoken exactly as remembered, the outcome made the point undeniable. Cities like Salonika were transformed. Once a modest port, it grew into a commercial powerhouse with a strong Jewish majority for centuries. Istanbul gained neighborhoods known for trade, scholarship, and finance. The empire's urban character became more cosmopolitan, reinforcing its identity as a crossroads of civilizations. Beyond economics, this migration shaped the moral image of the empire. Bayezid II's decision sent a message to his subjects. Loyalty mattered more than belief, productivity more than origin. In a world increasingly divided by religious absolutism, this approach fostered relative harmony. While conflicts and tensions certainly existed, the state actively discouraged mass persecution and forced conversion. This tolerance also served internal stability. By protecting minorities, the empire reduced the likelihood of rebellion and unrest. Communities that felt secure were more likely to cooperate with authorities, pay taxes, and contribute to society. Bayezid II's reign, marked by fewer major internal revolts, reflected this social balance. The long-term consequences were profound. The Jewish communities established during this period remained integral to Ottoman life for generations. They influenced commerce, diplomacy, medicine, and culture well into the modern era. Their presence helped sustain Ottoman cities during times when military expansion slowed and economic management became critical. Importantly, Bayezid II's policy demonstrated a broader governing philosophy. His reign favored consolidation over conquest, stability over spectacle. Welcoming refugees fit naturally into this worldview. Peaceful growth, he believed, was as valuable as territorial expansion. Wealth generated through trade and craftsmanship could support the army, fund public works, and strengthen the state without constant warfare. This episode also reveals how empires endure. Military victories may create empires, but administration, inclusion, and adaptability sustain them. Bayezid Tech chose to rule an empire that absorbed talent rather than expelled it, that benefited from difference rather than feared it. As the 16th century approached, the Ottoman Empire stood strong, not because it had conquered new lands in every direction, but because it had learned to govern what it already possessed wisely. The refugees of 1492 became citizens, contributors, and builders of imperial life. Their story became inseparable from the Ottoman story itself. In an age when intolerance reshaped much of the world through violence and exclusion, the Ottoman response offered a different lesson. Tolerance, when guided by structure and foresight, could generate prosperity. Economic wisdom did not always lie in armies and sieges, but in people and policy. The decision to welcome Jewish refugees was more than a humanitarian gesture. It was a strategic act that strengthened cities, enriched the treasury, enhanced global reputation, and reinforced imperial identity. It stands as one of the clearest examples of how enlightened governance can turn crisis into opportunity. In the legacy of Bayezid II, this moment shines as proof that an empire's greatest assets are not always its weapons or walls, but its willingness to recognize human potential wherever it appears and give it room to thrive.